Westfield, New Jersey.
Where'd you grow up?
Brooklyn, New York.
And your ethnic background is?
Oh, goodness. My mother is of Ashkenazi Jewish background, so Eastern European Jewish. And my father is, or was, American Indian, Black, and Surinamese. Well, I grew up in a cooperative apartment complex, so there were like 5 apartment buildings that all faced each other, with playgrounds and gardens, around it. So I grew up in an automatic kind of community, and there were lots of kids, and you didn't even have to leave your building. You could go a few floors down and go visit with a friend. So that was fun. And my parents had a kind of circle of friends who were just interesting. They did things like they would have parties where my mother would belly dance, or someone else would share some cultural dance or whatever. It was very festive. It sort of turned into a very rough, angry, crime-ridden neighborhood, so that was not fun at all. I guess in some ways more belonging, because my parents happened to have a very multi-ethnic group of friends. But over the years, until we moved out, that changed, and a lot of people moved to different places. And I think even with the friends of multiple different backgrounds, no one shared my multiracial background. So people were either they were X or they were Y. And so the idea of having a point of view of several different ethnic groups was really much more uncommon. Positives were I felt more empathy for lots of different kinds of people, and even in my reading material, I would read about the Holocaust, and then I would read about some story of a black kid growing up in Harlem kind of thing, and their challenges. But it also felt a little lonely, and I think it was an era of a lot of kind of racial strife. This was the late 60s. So, there was a lot of hatred in the U.S., and the section of Brooklyn that I was bussed into was very against having kids from my neighborhood be bussed into their neighborhood. And that was awful. That I felt like a foreigner being bussed into a different neighborhood that didn't want us. Where, imagine, here, if parents stood in front of McKinley School with picket signs and used racial slurs to say, keep the kid, keep them out. And we're talking about, little kids, because that was elementary school. It was very, I didn't understand it. It was bad for my self-esteem. I always felt like the outsider. I felt odd and different on so many levels that I just didn't feel like a normal kid, So I was way too conscious of it. It was too much a part of my day-to-day experience. On the other hand, I sort of, as I became a teenager, in some ways, sort of embraced. I loved, being different. The very first night I slept in Westfield, it was so quiet. I had trouble sleeping. Just laid there. Wow, listen to this. Because I came from Manhattan, sitting, at the house, sitting on the lawn, and some lady comes up to me with a basket. It turns out she was the welcome wagon. It's like, I've never heard of this. What is this? Why you bring me stuff? It was, there were just little surprises like that. But I loved, the tranquility and walking to the park and not dealing with the throngs of people on the street, and knowing your neighbor, or I forget where I was the other day, and I was dropping something off at the dry cleaner around the corner, and I said I didn't have my wallet. He said, "Oh, just, when you come back next time, and you can pay me." And those kinds of things were harder to find when you're in a big city. I think when you've experienced being robbed, mugged, etc., and your family members have gone through that, have been burglarized, held up at gunpoint, you don't take your safety for granted quite in the same way. I think you kind of take with you the place that you lived in, and a little bit you kind of have this image of it that may or may not be true, but it's long enough ago that you have this sort of fond memory of it. Yeah, for me, that's another difference. Like, your dad lives in the town that he grew up in. You're in the high school that he grew up in. For me, I went to high school in a place that sort of doesn't really exist for me anymore. Brooklyn has changed incredibly. I don't go there to that section of Brooklyn much. So you kind of like you take it in your head and in your psyche, but it's not like a place. I don't have the experience of going back to a childhood home that I grew up in and seeing a bedroom that's on, oh, that was my bedroom. That's, some people live in an apartment. Many, many people have lived in the apartment that I lived in. To me, the city was incredibly exciting. And when I had one of my favorite jobs that I worked for Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, I lived about 10 blocks from the hospital. So I had this great world of, movie theaters around the corner, theater. I went to Lincoln, not that I went to Lincoln Center all the time, but I got to see operas, I got to see plays. It was sort of, it was very exciting. And then, likewise in the suburb, I think when I got here, one of the things that shocked me was how nice New Jersey was. Because like so many people, you think New Jersey is the Turnpike, if you haven't really spent much time here. But also that you can drive, even from here, like 20 minutes, or go up to Watchung and be in the woods. So that's pretty amazing to me. So high school was that I didn't even go to the high school that was in my neighborhood. I took the subway to an alternative high school. So again, I was going to a place here where people were coming from all over, mostly Brooklyn, to go to. So I didn't ever have this sense of continuity, of crowd, and I think as much as you guys get tired of it, the idea that you have kids that you've gone to nursery school with, who you're now in high school with, your peers with, to me is just so, from my point of view, it's cool to watch you all grow up and see, the relationships. I think the sense of kind of safety and community, and that you have in this nice little town that you can go walk around in at 11 and feel, fairly safe in, and go to the movies and go sit in a cafe, whatever. Well, the strangest thing, it's certainly not the thing that I'm, I guess, the most proud of, but it's something that I feel like I do take pride in, is that I was so devastated by divorce and the way I was treated and the significant challenges that Jesse and I faced. And I had to learn how to live and think differently. And I feel like I've moved, in 10 years, my life and my thinking is so different. And that took a lot of active work and therapy, and not everybody can do that, and some people, I think that's what attracted me to your dad. One of the things is that when I met him, and the circumstances I met him, what struck me was how he could be joyful and seemed full of life, even though he just lost your mom 4 months before that. It's like that. I was almost I felt like I was in one of those Nicholas Sparks movies or something, because I'm tearing. I was falling in love with your dad talking about your mom. Because he was just, you could feel it. I think that's also maybe the other part of my life transition. For the first time in my life, I was struck by lightning, by someone who was wonderful as a person, rather than a pretty boy, well, I think your dad is cute. It wasn't about he's not about, being a model, and I finally feel like I grew up and had my head on straight. That makes sense. It took me a long time. I am often battling like a negative talk track in my head. Oh, they're not happy with me. Oh, they don't like me. Oh, I didn't do enough for them. Oh, I can't. I have all these worries, and so I think if I didn't sort of internalize a lot of that, it might have actually been a little bit easier for me. I don't know about for everybody else, but for me. I guess I would want to say is let yourself experience things without feeling like you have to follow a certain path or a certain set of rules, or worry less about conforming to what you think other people want of you or expect of you, and free yourself of that a little bit. To me, life's about possibilities and exploring, and I've done a fair amount of living in my number of years, and I don't know, to me that's what life's about. Like, don't be in a hurry to go, get married, buy a house. All of that comes with so much responsibility, let yourself get there. That's what I would say.
I got a little bit stronger, riding in the car to work, and I'm trying to ignore the hurt, so I turned on the radio. Stupid song made me think of you. I listened to it for a minute.
Since living with Julia, I have gotten in the habit of locking the front door, avoiding poorly lit streets, looking at men in the city differently, and questioning situations that don't add up. But since she moved in, I've also learned that everyone feels pain regardless of age, and there's a way to keep moving and keep smiling every single day. Growing up in the city with her ethnic background bettered Julia every step of her life. She learned strength and wisdom through life experiences and through stories of others she connected with her heritage. Julia has known loss and pain, but uses it to find a reason to smile every single day.